What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here on Rangers Central, and call it a miracle because Chris Drury remembered that PTOs are a thing. Before we jump into this and talk about the PTO signing of Adam Erne, be sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Ranger fans, and turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live on the channel. And I'm just sitting here, honestly, I just can't help but laugh because a couple of days ago, I tweeted out Kevin Leblanc's stats and everything and his advanced metrics, and I was saying, you know, maybe the Rangers should give a shot to Kevin Leblanc, a guy that's not far removed from a 30.5v5 scoring season, and, you know, the Rangers desperately need help at 5v5, and I couldn't help but laugh because the replies were filled with, oh, well, they need to give room for guys like Othman, they need to give room for guys like Brett Berard. I mean, you must be new around here if you really believed for a second that the Rangers were going to give a fair shot to their prospects, because I don't know if you're new around here, like I said, but you should know long enough. You should have been a fan long enough to know that this team has a knack for stuffing their prospects down the depth chart. And again, it is a PTO. Maybe he ends up getting cut by the end of this, but who the hell knows? It wouldn't surprise me if even if he has a bad camp, the Rangers sign him because, oh, we want to go with a veteran guy because of the fact that we're in a cup window and these prospects need more time to develop. Instead of just giving the prospects a fair shot, they'd rather go down this route because that's just the thing that the Rangers do, especially Chris Drury and company, like we've seen time and time again. Instead of playing guys like Adam Edstrom, it's Johnny Brodzinski. Instead of giving, you know, Rempe more time in the NHL every now and then, it's instead still guys like Johnny Brodzinski, and then even dating back further, I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole of the fact that they just stuff prospects down the depth chart, and it's really just infuriating. And my argument for Leblanc was, well, at least he's a guy that scores and puts up good points at 5v5, and he's a guy that has played at a very, like, top-end level, like a guy that had potential to be in the top 6. Adam Erne, I don't see what he's bringing to the table other than throwing a bunch of hits potentially if they need to, and maybe chipping in a couple of points. He's not far removed from an 18-point season with Detroit in 2022-23, but it's just, again, the thing where it's just like, again, I don't know what we're doing here, giving guys like Erne a PTO. Maybe he ends up being the next best PTO since Jimmy Vesey. Maybe, and I end up being wrong. But again, I just would have rather have been Kevin Leblanc. You guys know last year I was clamoring for Danton Heinen, who ended up having a career year because, of course. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and overly overanalyze this as a PTO because, again, if he sucks, hopefully they cut him. But my problem is more so the principle of this, because at the end of the day, there are so many other guys that the Rangers could have signed to PTOs, and, you know, dating back years, they could have done this with so many other players, and it's just like, now's the shot to give Brett Berard and Brendan Othman their chance. And if you're not going to sign someone that at least has shown in the past that they could play, you know, really good NHL minutes, I just don't see why Adam Erne is the guy. The only logical thing I could think of is Chris Drury, who is known for not having a backup plan ever, and that was very apparent this offseason because the Trouba trade doesn't happen, and then all of a sudden it's just, let's throw our arms up and we'll get a couple of depth players and trade for Riley Smith and call it an offseason because we don't have a backup plan here at all. And maybe Erne is the backup plan because he could play center every now and then in a pinch. Maybe he's the plan in case Phil Petel gets hurt because, as we know, one of my biggest concerns going into the season is Phil Petel's health is up in the air. I mean, it's not a debatable thing. His health is a legitimate question, and they got virtually no help at all for if Phil Petel goes down with an injury, which, again, I don't want it to happen, but it's highly likely considering the history there of his concussion issues. But yeah, I guess this is the backup plan where Sam Carrick or Johnny Brodzinski plays the 3C in a pinch, and then Adam Erne maybe could play some center if they need him to, which, again, I don't understand what the thought process is here instead of just actually acquiring players that could play center if that's the game plan. But this is, again, going back to the point as to why I was okay with the Rangers giving up prospects at the deadline, because it's like, oh, well, how could you want them to give up prospects? You need guys, younger guys to come in. I've watched this organization long enough to know that this is just more of the same of what they do. And again, Could I be wrong here? And maybe he just doesn't make the roster, and maybe Othman and Berard aren't as good as we think. Sure. But again, if those two aren't as good as they think, that falls on Chris Drury for over-analyzing his players and overvaluing his players at this past year's deadline and not trading any of them to go get a Jake Gensel or go get other quality players that were available at this past year's deadline. And again, I don't know. This is more turning into a Chris Drury rant session more than just discussing Adam Erne. But with Adam Erne, again, he's a guy that throws a lot of hits. You know, he takes the puck away more than he gives it away outside of 1 year in Detroit where he was a turnover machine and just didn't take the puck away, but could win faceoffs when he does step into the faceoff dot. A guy that could put up 20 points, maybe, but is it likely? I don't know, because of the years that he has put up that many points, his shooting percentage is around the 15% mark or the 10% mark, and I just don't realistically know if that's sustainable. He didn't get a lot of time in Edmonton last year. The only good thing I could really say is that for a guy that does throw a lot of hits and plays pretty physical, he doesn't take too many penalties. So that's, you know, something that isn't bad. And then the other thing, too, is when he does put up the points that he does, it really comes through him getting a lot of ice time. Like he was averaging 13 minutes in Detroit in 2022-23, puts up 18 points. Averaged 13 minutes in Detroit the year prior, put up 19 points. Averaged almost 14 minutes the year prior in Detroit, put up 20 points. So you're seeing a pattern here. And when he gets less ice time, he's not doing necessarily as great of things as you would want. So, again, it is a PTO at the end of the day. I'm not going to sit here and complain about... again, I'm not complaining about the idea of signing someone to a PTO. And even Adam Erne himself, like, this isn't me ripping on that in particular. It's more so, again, the principle of there are so many better options that they could have gave PTOs to in both years prior and this year. There was way better options, and on top of that, again, it's just are you going to trust your prospects or not? And it just seems like they're not, which again opens up a whole can of worms there of a rant session I could go into, because this organization just aggravates me to no end when it comes to the way they handle prospect development and all that other stuff. So it kind of just is what it is. There's no point in ranting about it when it just happens year in and year out at this point, but we'll see what happens with Adam Erne. Best case, again, he ends up proving us wrong, and he ends up having an unbelievable training camp as well as preseason, and he makes the roster. Worst case scenario, he's only playing because the prospects didn't pan out and he still sucks himself, and then all of a sudden you're talking about a scenario where it's really just infuriating. But again, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm just kind of sitting here feeling like whatever. Like, I know that I just went down a rant sesh a little bit there, but I don't know. It's just, again, one of those things where it just aggravates me time and time again, the thought process that goes into some of the decision making. And I'm sure the comments are going to be filled with, oh, well, you think you know so much, or you think you're so much better than Drury. All my point is, I don't know. I really don't trust Drury right now. That's really just the main point. So, yeah, this was more just a Chris Drury rant session than more about Adam Erne and the signing itself, which, again, we'll see what happens there. Again, best case, he's good, makes the roster. Worst case, he is bad, and the prospects are so bad that he has to make the roster because of that. But we'll see what happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you haven't. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live, and I'll see you guys in the next one.